This week, a federal court of appeals has upheld part of the Arizona-style immigration law that says if an immigrant can't produce the proper ID during a traffic stop, officers have the right to do a further background check. Here to talk about this and answer your legal questions is our legal expert, Attorney Jay Davis. Jay, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. Now, this happened on Monday here in Georgia. The federal court of appeals says if a person is stopped and they can't produce those immigration papers, and the police officer has the right to do further checks. But in Alabama, in the next state over, the same court, that federal court of appeals, said that Alabama schools are not allowed to do immigration background checks. Now, why would one court say essentially two different things in two different states?
Well, the thing is how immigration is applied. You have to remember that immigration is exclusively the domain of the federal government and what they dictate. And for years, the federal government has allowed law enforcement to do a part of their service with immigration, and that is to check. Somebody's detained, somebody's accused of a crime. Prior to their release, they've always been able to assist the federal government in checking their immigration status before they're released. The Alabama law about the students referred whether or not students had to say they were illegal aliens at the beginning of that question, and then what was the purpose of that.
Is there any sort of age difference in these laws? I mean, it seems as if adults are being dealt with a little more harshly than,
it's not going to be the age
people.
difference as much as the purpose difference. The purpose in a school for a child's going to have the right to an education in this country, Supreme Court has already said, regardless of their immigration status. So it's not important for their education. So the only purpose would be for a state purpose of counting or something like that. And the court said, no, that's not a legitimate purpose that might be discriminatory against people not wanting to have their children there.
Okay, now another part of this thing that was upheld on Monday with the Federal Court of Appeals, they said that if a person is knowingly harboring illegal immigrants in the commission of a crime, they can't be prosecuted. Explain that and how that works.
Well, that's where the state law sort of paralleled the federal government's law. And the court said, no, the federal government has a way of dealing with that. It's their domain to deal with. The federal government has a portion that says if you bring somebody across the national borders, the U.S. borders, then that's a crime and that's a portion. The states, not just Georgia, but several states, tried to make that pulling somebody across from a state to state line, and that's not going to be a part of immigration.
That's interesting. It's a very interesting debate, and you can see it does vary when you go from one state to another. Now, I want to get to our viewer question. This is from Patricia Mixon. She writes, I have 2.4 acres of land in rural central Georgia, and someone wants to purchase it. He suggested we do a quick turnaround sale. Will you please explain to me what this terminology means and what is required of me? Now, I have actually heard the term quick turnaround sale in car commercials. Is it the same sort of thing?
There is nothing with land transactions that are a quick turnaround sale. Somebody's using a phrase that could mean several things. What they probably mean is this is a low cost. I don't know how much 2.4 acres cost in this area, but assuming it's $7,000 for 2.4 acres, that's a low price to incur the cost of closing. Real estate closings are required to be done in Georgia by a licensed attorney. And so what they probably want to do is a quit claim deed where one person relinquishes their interest in payment for something. And that way, if it's a small amount, there's not the full title check to make sure you've got good title, make sure there's no liens, and that type of thing.
Well, Jay, thank you so much for being here. We appreciate it. And if you want to get your questions answered, you can send them to us at itsthethaw@41nbc.com.